Hey everybody, my name's Carson Howard. I am one of the sea turtle interns with the Louise Island Conservancy this summer, and we're doing some online programming. And I thought that I would start off this Thursday with a stay-at-home science experiment. And we'll be doing science experiments every Thursday practically for the rest of the summer. So join us and we'll do some science. But I thought I'd start off this week with some weather experiments. We've had some pretty crazy weather, and I thought it'd be fun to just incorporate that so that we can learn a little bit about how tornadoes work and how clouds make rain. So I've got two small science experiments that'll take hardly any time at all, and also you can use pretty much stuff laying around your house. And if you don't have the stuff, you can borrow from a neighbor or get it on your next grocery run. So no worries if you don't have it, but thought this would be a fun little introduction to our online programming. So let's get started. The first experiment that we're going to do today is called Tornado in a Jar. I thought that we'd start with some weather experiments because we've had some crazy weather this past week, and it's been really rainy, and I thought we'd do some weather experiments. So what you're going to need for this is a jar. I've just got this old mason jar. If you've got a spaghetti sauce jar or a pickle jar, that'll work just fine. You're going to need some tap water to fill it up with. You're going to need a little bit of vinegar, and you're going to need some dish soap, some liquid dish soap. So the way we're going to do this experiment is we're going to make sure that our jar has a good lid, because we don't want water filling everywhere. That would be bad. We're going to fill the jar all the way up until there's about an inch left at the top. So you want to have just a little bit of space at the top. Next, we're going to add, I've got my little teaspoon measurer right here. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of vinegar. I know I've got this giant bottle and I just need 1 teaspoon, but we work with what we have, right? So I just need 1 little teaspoon. Oh, let's make sure we're using the teaspoon measure. Teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of vinegar. And we also need 1 teaspoon of dish soap. So same thing, 1 teaspoon. We're just going to pour it right into the jar. And then we're going to put the lid back on. Make sure it's nice and tight. Alright, so another option for this experiment is to add some glitter, add some food coloring, add something so that when you make your tornado, things fly around in it. It's nice and sparkly, or nice, and you could have little cow figurines flying around in there, cows in your tornado. So before we do this, I'm going to explain a little bit more about tornadoes. So tornadoes, like hurricanes, they have a vortex at the center. Vortex is just the center of the storm that rotates, and it rotates in one direction really, really strongly. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our jar full of water, vinegar, and dish soap, and we're going to shake it in a circle so that we create a vortex. And that dish soap is going to foam up, and we're going to be able to see the tornado happen. All right, so I'm going to hold this up so everyone can see. So we've got a tornado in a jar. Pretty cool. So feel free to do that as many times as you want. Make sure to hang on to the jar, make sure the cap is nice and tight, but then you get a nice, cool tornado. So if you add some glitter, add some color, whatever makes you happy, you'll be able to see the tornado even more. And that's tornado in a jar. Hey everybody, we're going to do a second experiment this morning. And we're going to do how clouds make rain. It sounds a little complicated, but it'll be nice and easy. All you need is some shaving cream. I've just got this small can that was laying around in the house. You're going to need some water, a jar. Doesn't have to be this small. You can use a cup. You can use the same jar that you used for the other experiment. Just anything that you can see through. And I've got some blue food coloring. If you don't have blue, no worries. You can make red rain. It'd be nice and fun. So I'm going to bring you guys in a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. Alright, so first we need to learn a little bit about the water cycle before this experiment so that it makes sense. So a lot of us know that when it rains, it helps our gardens, it helps our plants grow, makes our grass look green, helps everything. So when water heats up, if it's like in a pond or in a lake or even the ocean, water heats up, it evaporates. And that's when it turns from a liquid into a gas. So it's going to rise up out of the water and turn into a gas and rise up into the sky. And when it turns into water vapor, it's just going to rise and rise and rise and keep cooling, because remember, it was hot water. And then as it rises, it cools off as it gets higher into the atmosphere, and it's going to start to condense, and that's called condensation. So it's going to turn from water vapor back into these tiny, tiny, teeny tiny little water droplets. And as tiny little water droplets group together, it starts to make clouds. And as we get clouds, it starts to get a little bit heavier. So imagine if you get all these tiny little water droplets together and they start to weigh more. They start to weigh more. Lots of them getting together, condensating all over the place. And then we're gonna get big giant rain clouds. So when we get those big giant rain clouds, those big water droplets, they're gonna get too heavy to stay in the sky. So they're gonna drop, and that's called precipitation. They're gonna drop and it's gonna rain like crazy. Drop back down, and they're gonna end up back in those ponds and streams that they came from. So what we're gonna do today is show a little bit of precipitation. We're gonna do that with our shaving cream and our water and our food coloring. So I've got my jar here, and I'm gonna fill it up with water. Pretty close to the top, just enough room to put shaving cream on top. So I've got it just a little bit of room left. And we're gonna put a nice thin layer to represent the clouds. So I've got my shaving cream, and we're just gonna put a nice little thin layer across the top. Not too high, just a little bit. And then we're gonna take our fun blue food coloring. And I'm gonna hold this up so you guys can see. And I'm just gonna start to sprinkle this on top. And this represents the condensation. So this is the water collecting in the clouds. And you're just gonna keep putting a few drops here, a few drops there, and then it's gonna start to rain. We're gonna get streaks like this as the rain falls from the clouds. It's gonna be nice and rainy. Let's see. Can add a few more, make it a nice big rainstorm if you like. Oh. Pretty fun. So feel free to try either of these experiments at home. I just use stuff laying around my house to do them. Super fun, learn about the weather that's going on around us these days, and yeah, who doesn't love a good science experiment? Love it getting a little bit messy sometimes. Well, that's it for this week, but we'll have these going every week for the rest of the summer on Thursdays, so join us next week for the next Stay at Home Science. Thanks, guys.